This is the Cal One-on-One podcast on Cape Atlantic Live. Here's your host, Nick Kosko.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cal One-on-One podcast right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and with me today is Ocean City basketball head coach John Bruno. Coach, appreciate the time. As always, looking forward to seeing what you guys can do on the court this winter. Got to ask first, what's the offseason, preseason been like for you guys preparing for another run here in South Jersey Group 3 and, of course, across the Cape Atlantic League?
Well, the off season's always pretty laid back for us. A few of the kids get involved with AAU. A lot of kids play other sports, which we encourage. We got some lacrosse players, got some baseball players. That ties up some of their time. But they put some time in the summer. We get in the gym a couple days a week. They get involved in the fall league, and then when the season rolls around, they're ready to go. So we kind of keep kids interested in all the other things, and when the time comes to focus on basketball, that's where we are right now.
Well, you got to love that focus on basketball. It paid off for you guys last year, 15-13 on the year, but don't let the record fool you. And I know it was only a 1-1 sit in the Cal tournament, but of course you guys went on a run to the South Jersey Group 3 finals last year, just fell short to Moorestown. I got to say, the run last year, I mean, maybe from the outside looking in, surprised a lot of people, but when you look at that team from last year and the pieces that you bring back this year, was that really a surprise in that playoff run last year?
Well, I don't really think it was a surprise. I think the surprise was that a certain team wasn't able to participate in the tournament. That was probably the surprise.
Yeah, right.
But aside from that, we're a team that kind of gets better as the year goes on. So early in the year, we may not look as good. And I just think the Cal's a tough competition. For somebody to go 20-2, there's only a few teams that are going to do that. So night in and night out, you're getting tested. And then when you get to the tournament, it's like you're ready for it. And I think that's what happened with us, that we got to the end of the year. The ball bounced in the right places, and we played hard. We had that first game at Timber Creek was probably a surprise to a lot of people. That probably was a surprise. But after that, they just played well together. And that's the whole kit. Can you play well at the end of the season in any sport?
So when you look at that development, you mentioned it's almost like a slow burn. Is that traditionally what your teams have been like in your time at Ocean City? Whether they're great, average, very good, whatever the case may be. When you look at your teams year to year, do you always expect that kind of slow start? Maybe it's good and it's bad, but then you explode towards the end of the season.
I don't know if expect is the right word, but like I said, I really don't think we spend as much time as a team in basketball as some other teams do, because I do encourage them to do other things. And so the team aspect of it takes a while. And so, I would say that we're normally a slow starting. We don't come out of the blocks 8-1, 9-1 very often. But as the year progresses, I look at how we played in, say, early January, and you get to end of February, you're like, you've improved. And that's kind of what our MO has been, that we've improved as the year has gone on.
You talked about the depth of the Cape Atlantic League. I've pretty much asked every coach about this, how the league has developed so much so over the last 5, maybe to 10 years at this point. And again, I'll use the same example, top heavy at one point, maybe 2 to 4 teams. Only those select teams could win the conference, maybe make deep runs in the playoffs as well. But it seems like it's expanded to now a minimum 5 teams can win the Cal, and then upwards of up to 9, maybe 10 teams are going to contend for it and also make these deep playoff runs. Other coaches have had different answers about it as to why it's been developed at this rate at this point. What have you seen over the last, half to maybe full decade about Cape Atlantic League basketball?
I actually think it's kind of a weird response to that, is that I think we have very good quality high school players. We don't see that Division I player that we saw 20 years ago, the Lou Rose, the Lamar Greers. We have everybody who's very good high school basketball players and not necessarily dominating. And so if you can just play well, you can compete just about. I agree with your 9 teams. I guarantee you somebody's going to upset somebody who you didn't expect when that Cal tournament rolls around. It isn't like the same 2 teams each year. So I think the quality at the highest level has come down a little bit, but I think the overall quality, like you're seeing teams with 4 or 5 players who are quality, whereas in the past you had a team with 2 or 3 super players and some role players. Now these players are very good. You look at all the teams: Middle Township, Mainland, St. Augustine, Egg Harbor Township. Look at the depth of quality on the court. And I think at any given moment, I really believe that a team can beat another team. And that's why I think we do well in the postseason. when it comes to playing those other teams.
When you look at that depth, and that's a great word that you just brought up, and it's a great moniker for a lot of these talented basketball teams in South Jersey. Throughout your career, you mentioned how there's been Division I players in this area, here and there, maybe not consistently as other places in New Jersey, like the North Jersey Powers or even some of the parochial schools as well. Do you pride your teams on depth? You want that strong starting five. You want maybe those 2 to 3 star players. Maybe they're not Division I players, but they are star players. But do you as a coach really want to pride yourself on, I don't want to go 5 deep. I want to go about 8, 9, maybe even 10 deep on my varsity roster?
I think that's every coach's dream. I think that's one of the problems, though. I think a lot of teams, when you look around, depth, I bet will be most teams a little Achilles heel. We all want that. And so you try to develop it. I think the good teams are the ones that have good benches. And if you can get your better players out of a game and rested, and put somebody in and not lose anything again, and then you bring them back fresh, I think that's the key. But I think perennially, if you look around the league, they're usually a solid 6 or 7.
Right.
But yeah, depth is something that I think everybody wishes they had.
What's it like for you? Again, for public schools, I don't want to use the word recruiting, but obviously that's the way of the world now, especially with more transfers. NIL could be creeping in, for all we know, from college all the way down to high school in vast forms over the next couple of years. When you look at the feeder programs at Ocean City, the development process from these kids when they're in the youth programs to middle school, how do you manage that between, okay, they're going to get interest from other places. A lot of places are choice schools now at this point for public schools as well. What do you look at in terms of how you develop or how you see the development go from your youth programs to the middle school? And when they eventually do come up to high school, do you have to talk to these kids constantly and say, we can't wait to have you essentially when you're a freshman and obviously through the Red Raiders program?
Unfortunately, Nick, I've been around too long to even worry about that. My bottom line is I think we do a very good job. I think we have a good program of players. When the time comes, of course, you go down and you look at your middle schools and you try to contact. But I'm not one to. My attitude is when you walk in the Ocean City High School doors, that's when I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to try to develop you. If you mentioned NIL, it's hard to believe you're mentioning NIL in high school.
Yeah,
same sentence, and I don't think you're far off. I think that's creeping up. It already is in some of the major high schools.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've really never, I've kind of said, I will welcome with open arms when you walk into my doors, and you want to be part of the Ocean City program. If you choose not to, I wish you the best of luck, and we move on from there. So, because there's too much of that going on right now.
Right. It is a lot. It's going to be a lot of vast changes throughout the course of college athletics. And of course, it's going to just maybe completely change high school sports within the next 5 to 10 years. It's a very unknown commodity. Of course, John Bruno with me here on Cal One-on-One, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service, head coach of Ocean City basketball. So, Coach, speaking of the players that have been in your program for quite a bit, 3 seniors, Patrick Grimley, Dylan Schlatter, and Corey Sagich, they have been really talented players for you. Seeing them last year in action up close and in person as well. They can really make your team go. What can you say about that trio of guys and what they've done for your team over the past couple of years and what they can, what we can expect to see them from seniors?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Nick, that those 3 are the guys that we're going to rely on. Corey Sagich is a strong ball handler, can shoot the ball. He can handle the ball. One of the things that we're, I think, fortunate to have, and I see some of the other teams that are successful, everybody can handle the ball. That's something I think is a lot. We don't see many centers anymore to begin with, but with Patrick Grimley, even a guy who's a perfect example of a lacrosse player stepping onto a basketball court because he's a very good athlete. But he gives it 110%. Even he can handle the ball. Dylan Schlatter, I think, is as good a point guard in this league, and I think that's something every high school team needs. You need a guard. Every successful team, I think, in high school is successful from the point guard position. Handle the ball against pressure, get it to the right people, calm people down when things are getting crazy. And those 3 gained quite a bit of experience over the course of last year, and we're looking for a lot more out of them this year.
Are there any young guys on this roster that people should be paying attention to, or maybe we'll keep an eye on as the season progresses? What have you noticed from the youth on your high school team this year?
We got a couple kids. It's funny. A couple juniors. Ben McGonigal, who will be in the starting lineup this year, has come a long way in a year. We also have a Charlie LeBar. He's another kid that maybe didn't get the experience last year that we would like to him, but as the course of the year went on, he got more and now he looks better. So he's kind of a senior that's stepping up, and Ben McGonigal is going to be a junior. Jack Porter, we expect some things out of him coming off the bench. Again, these are all guys playing other sports, which always help. Slows them down a little bit, getting ready after football, going to basketball or whatever the sport may be. But as I said before, our depth is what's really going to hurt us. Colin Thompson's a really good baseball player who's at that guard spot. And that's pretty much our 8. And now we're trying to develop, 9 and 10, like you had said earlier.
How do you develop those guys that are, on that 9-10 line? Of course, maybe they're not ready yet. Maybe they're really young. It seems like you have good depth right now, as you just mentioned, down to 7 to 8 players that are going to be in that constant rotation. What do you do with those guys that are just below that cusp right there? I mean, is it just extra practice time? Is it just doing, scout team type stuff? What's it like for high school basketball at this rate?
You got to practice harder. I think this day and age, we live in a world of an entitlement that thinks, well, if I'm on the team, how come I'm not playing? Mm-hmm. Well, as I say to the kids, give me a reason to play you. And you want to encourage those kids. And what happens is, I think if those kids push to make the kids that are playing in front of them better, mm-hmm. they become better. And if they become better, then they get a chance to have more time themselves.
Mm-hmm. It's that old iron sharpens iron mentality. I like that. So, Coach, just looking at some of the other things that are going on this year, we've talked about the depth of the Cal and obviously what you guys have been able to do in South Jersey Group 3 as well. So could be a little bit different this year. And again, I know you just mentioned something. It's a bit of a slow burn for you guys to start out the year. When you look at the playoff run from last year, is that in the heads of your players, your staff, yourself, knowing that, okay, maybe the ball bounced our way a little bit. Everyone's got to have a little bit of luck on these long runs as well. Every team, again, that goes for every team. When you look at that run from last year, do you say, okay, we were there, like let's go do it again? It's not going to be easy, but let's go do it again. I got to imagine that's just flowing through everybody's heads.
Never enters my mind. That's a new year. It's Wildwood Catholic on Thursday, and we'll see what happens as time goes on. It's a new group. It's a new season. I'm sure the kids think that way. If you ask me personally, that's how I think. Yeah. I'm sure that they feel very confident that they want to get back, that everybody wants a taste of that. Right. That playoff run. And I hope they think that way. But our mentality over the years has been the next game. It really has. And I think that the next play, the next game, I think the mentality you really need to have because of the competition that you're facing. You can never look ahead. Wait till that game comes in front of you and go from there. So in all honesty, it's a new year. We go from scratch and we move on from there because it's a new group.
I'm looking at that, and again, everyone can say, well, that's cliche, that's coach speak, but I, haven't been a former athlete, not a very good one, but of course, one that had played multiple sports growing up and through the high school and college level, I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand that from the coach's perspective, but I am a little surprised. No bulletin board material. There's nothing hidden behind that door right there that says, okay, we have to get back here. No bulletin board material.
Nope, none at all. It's never even. I don't think we've ever discussed being in the South Jersey final last year. It's never even come up. It's just been working towards this year. And maybe that's because over the years, I realized that's how important it is, that it doesn't do any good to think about. Now, like I said, I'm sure they sit in their cars and they sit around their houses and they're sitting there, tonight going, hey, we're going to be in the finals again this year, which is good. But I try to keep them to a level head that says, you know what, you got to win this next game first before you can worry about that.
What's been the preparation like for Wildwood Catholic coming up? And maybe not necessarily them in particular, but again, that's who you're playing to open up the season this year. But when you look at, you go through your preseason, you go through those workouts, you go through those long, hard practices leading up through the fall and eventually into the winter. You have those scrimmages, maybe you're scrimmaging teams that you normally wouldn't see to get a different look. The grind, I got to imagine, especially for the high school athlete, any year. I know it's a different day and age now, but you look at that grind. What's the mentality like from your players, knowing that, oh, there's an actual basketball game later this week. We actually get to play for something that counts now on the record.
I think it's kind of like when you see those NFL teams when they end up scrimmaging against each other day after day after day. You just need to see another face. You need to see another body. You need to see something different. So I think when the scrimmages start, that's when you start getting their juices going, that we're playing somebody else. But we're always about preparation. And I'm not really concerned about winning or losing a scrimmage. It's about what do we get done? What do we accomplish? What do we not do well? What do we need to work on? And that's why I think we're really slow starters to come out of the gate, because we don't really put a whole lot in. We try to get a feel for what kind of team we have and where we're going to go. But the atmosphere at practice this week was far different than it was a week ago.
I can only imagine. There's a little extra juice right there.
Oh, absolutely.
I love that. Head coach John Bruno of Ocean City Basketball with me here on Cal One-on-One. Coach, I'll get you out of here on this one. And maybe this is me being not around on the scene as long as others, but you got to educate me. The pattern shirts, the floral shirts for you, is that a tradition that dates back a long time? And in the past couple of years that I've done your games or games that you've been ahead of me, where I just see you guys in action. I always see the floral shirt. I like the unique dress for coaches. I see it up at Rutgers with wrestling. The head coach wears a sweater vest all the time. Where does that come from?
It does have a story behind it. It started years ago when a friend of ours that was an aide at our school had passed away. And he was a very big Italian man, Big Mike. And when he passed away, he wore Hawaiian shirts because he was so big. Those are the best shirts for him. So every Friday we started wearing Hawaiian shirts in his honor. And then about 5 years ago, I decided on every opening night, I'm going to wear a Hawaiian shirt in his honor. And then when COVID hit, we were at school, we didn't have to wear ties anymore. So I said, well, I don't want to not wear a tie to school and then put on a tie to practice. So why don't whatever I wear to school, I'm going to, wear at the game. So I said, what better way that I'm going to honor Big Mike every game? So I decided at that point, I'm going to wear a Hawaiian shirt for every basketball game that I'm in.
I love that personally because I try to have like a standard dress for every broadcast or, whatever I'm doing. I like that. I think I'm going to have to maybe add a Hawaiian shirt for some Ocean City games this year. That sounds like a pretty good idea. I like that.
Yep.
I love that. All right, Coach. Well, I appreciate the time as always. Good luck this season. Hope to see you guys out there consistently on the court. Looking forward to seeing what you guys can do, of course, throughout the Cape Atlantic League and see what you guys can do again in the South Jersey Group 3 playoffs and maybe make another run here for Ocean City.
All right. Well, thanks, Nick. I appreciate it. Like I said, I really think you do a wonderful job for these kids, and the coverage you give them is absolutely top notch. And I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Coach. Thank you very much. John Bruno of Ocean City right here on Cal One-on-One, of course, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. Catch more of our content right here on Cape Atlantic Live.